March 16, 1944. 2:47 a.m., mid-Atlantic, 600 miles west of the Azores. Captain Lieutenant Werner Hartmann stands on the bridge of his U-boat, breathing salt air that tastes like freedom. The night is black. No moon, overcast sky, surface visibility maybe 200 meters in the darkness. Perfect conditions. His boat rides low in the water, diesels rumbling as they charge the batteries. The sound carries across the waves, but there's no one to hear it. No convoy nearby, no escorts, just empty ocean under an empty sky. Hartmann has done this hundreds of times, surfaced at night, charged batteries, positioned for dawn attack. Night is the U-boat's domain, always has been. The British have radar now, everyone knows that. But radar needs line of sight. And on a dark night like this, with the boat sitting low in the water, the profile is tiny. Maybe they'd see you at 2,000 meters, maybe. By then you're gone. Crash dive. 45 seconds and you're under. Hartmann checks his watch. Another hour of charging. Then they'll submerge before dawn and wait. Herr Kallion? The watch officer's voice carries tension. Aircraft. Bearing 270. Hartmann freezes. Aircraft? At night? Impossible. He raises his binoculars. Sees nothing. Hears nothing over the diesel rumble. Are you certain? The METOX, sir. Strong signal, very strong, closing. The radar detector, it's picking up aircraft radar, but that makes no sense. There are no land bases within range. No fleet carriers in this sector. And aircraft don't hunt submarines at night, can't see them, can't find them in the darkness. How far? Signal strength suggests. The lookout's shout cuts through everything. Aircraft! Hartmann sees it now. A dark shape against the darker sky. Low, maybe 300 meters altitude. Coming straight at them. Impossible. The pilot can't see them, can't possibly see them in this darkness. Alarm! Dive! 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 The klaxon screams. Men scramble down the hatch. Diesels cut. Electric motors engage. Vents open. Air roars out. Water rushes in. The boat's bow dips, not fast enough. A brilliant light snaps on above them, blinding white. A searchlight mounted on the aircraft, illuminating the U-boat like it's daytime. Hartmann sees the aircraft clearly now. Twin engines, American and Avenger. How did they find us? Depth charges tumble from the aircraft's belly. Hartmann throws himself through the hatch. The tower watch follows, someone's shouting. Water's already swirling around the conning tower base. The hatch slams shut. Wheel spins. Locked. Flood! Take her down! Emergency! The first depth charge detonates. The blast lifts the boat's stern, throws everyone forward. Lights flicker. Something breaks with a metallic shriek. The second charge, closer. The third, everything goes dark. This should not be possible. That's what goes through Hartmann's mind as his boat plunges toward the ocean floor, trailing oil and air bubbles, hull cracked, flooding in. 3 compartments. For 4 years, night meant safety. Meant freedom to operate. Meant the hunters couldn't find you. The rules of the game were clear. Surface at night. Charge batteries, attack convoys, escape the escorts. By 1944, those rules no longer apply. The Germans don't know it yet, not fully. But the Atlantic is no longer theirs. It belongs to something they never anticipated. American escort carriers, baby flat tops, converted merchantmen with flight decks, hunting U-boats, with radar, at night. Let's go back. Back to when the Germans still believed they understood the war they were fighting. The U-boat's advantage came from a simple asymmetry. Submerged, a U-boat was slow. 7 knots maximum, the batteries ran down quickly at that speed. A submerged U-boat couldn't catch a convoy, couldn't coordinate with other boats, couldn't maneuver for attack. On the surface, 17 knots, fast enough to chase down merchant ships, fast enough to run away from most escorts, fast enough to form wolf packs and coordinate attacks. The entire German strategy depended on surface operations. During the day, Allied aircraft forced U-boats to dive. But day only lasts so long, and land-based aircraft had limited range. At night, the ocean belonged to the submarines. British destroyers had radar by 1941. The Type 286 sets, primitive fixed antenna systems that could barely detect a surface submarine at 1.5 miles. The Germans knew about it, developed the METOX radar detector, a simple device that picked up British radar transmissions and warned the U-boat to dive. Problem solved. Then came Type 271. The British introduced it in late 1941. 10-centimeter wavelength, centimetric radar could detect a surface submarine at 2.5 miles, a destroyer at 6 miles. More importantly, rotating antenna, all-around coverage, and the METOX couldn't detect it. Different frequency outside the METOX's range. By early 1943, British escorts were slaughtering U-boats at night. The darkness no longer protected them. Surface attacks became suicidal. The Germans noticed, Dönitz noticed. May 1943, Black May, 41 U-boats lost, an unsustainable rate. But the Germans thought they understood the threat. British destroyers, British corvettes, British radar on surface ships, they adapted, sort of. Reduced training time to get more U-boats to sea, installed more AA guns, tried to fight it out on the surface. It didn't work. But at least they understood what they were fighting. Then the Americans showed up with something completely different. Escort carriers, small aircraft carriers built on merchant hulls. 500 feet long, displacement around 10,000 tons. 20 aircraft, a mix of Grumman Wildcat fighters and Grumman Avenger torpedo bombers. Slow, 16 knots maximum, vulnerable. Thin armor, if any, cheap, converted cargo ships and oilers, fast to build. Kaiser Shipbuilding could turn one out in 3 months. The British called them Woolworth carriers. Cheap and expendable. The Americans called them CVEs. Wags in the Navy said it stood for combustible, vulnerable, expendable. But they had one critical advantage. They could put aircraft anywhere in the Atlantic. Anywhere. For as long as needed. Land-based aircraft from Britain could cover the eastern Atlantic. Land-based aircraft from Newfoundland and Iceland could cover the western and northern approaches. But there was a gap, the Black Gap in mid-Atlantic beyond the range of land-based planes. 1,000 miles of ocean where U-boats could operate freely. Not anymore. A CVE could steam into the Black Gap and stay there. Launch aircraft in rotation. Maintain air coverage 24 hours a day. And those aircraft carried something the Germans never expected. Radar. The Avengers mounted ASV, air-to-surface vessel radar sets, could detect a surfaced U-boat at 10 miles or more, at night. When the U-boat's lookouts couldn't see the aircraft coming. When the METOX detector was useless because it couldn't pick up centimetric radar. When the U-boat commanders thought they were safe. The Americans added one more element, the lead light. A powerful searchlight mounted on the aircraft, switched on at the last moment to illuminate the target for the attack run. You're a U-boat commander. You surface at night to charge batteries. The darkness feels safe. Your METOX is quiet. Your lookouts see nothing. Then without warning, a spotlight pins you against the ocean. An aircraft you never saw coming drops depth charges. You're dead before you understand what happened. The Germans called it das unmögliche Problem, the impossible problem. Spring 1943, the Battle of the Atlantic reaches crisis point. In March, U-boats sink 627,000 tons of Allied shipping. 95 ships, the highest monthly total since 1942. The Allies are losing. British Prime Minister Churchill writes later that the only thing that truly frightened him during the war was the U-boat peril. And in March 1943, it looks like the U-boats might win. Then everything changes. May 1943, Black May, 41 U-boats lost. In 1 month. For comparison, the Germans lost 43 U-boats in all of 1942. What happened? Multiple factors, more escorts, better tactics, improved radar. long-range aircraft closing the black gap, breaking the German naval codes. But one development changes the equation permanently: the escort carrier. The U.S. Navy commissioned its first escort carrier, USS Long Island, in June 1941. Used for training and aircraft ferry duties, the concept proved itself in November 1942 during Operation Torch, the invasion of North Africa. 4 escort carriers provided air cover for the landing forces. Admiral Ernest King, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Fleet, saw the potential for anti-submarine work. The math was simple. Germany could build submarines faster than the Allies could sink them with surface ships alone. The only way to win was to prevent the U-boats from operating effectively. That required air power, constant air coverage, forcing the U-boats to stay submerged, hunting them when they surfaced. But land-based aircraft had range limits, and fleet carriers were too valuable, too scarce to waste on convoy protection. Escort carriers solved the problem, cheap enough to build in quantity, capable enough to operate aircraft effectively, expendable enough to risk in the submarine war. The U.S. Navy formed Task Group 21.12 in March 1943. Core: USS Bogue, an escort carrier. Escort: 4 destroyer escorts. Mission: hunt U-boats in the mid-Atlantic. Not convoy escort, not defensive patrol. Active hunting, hunter-killer operations. The concept was radical. Instead of waiting for U-boats to attack convoys, the hunter-killer groups would find U-boats and destroy them. They'd use ultra-intelligence, decrypted German radio messages, to identify patrol areas. They'd use HF-DF, high-frequency direction finding, to locate U-boats when they transmitted. They'd use radar-equipped aircraft to find surface submarines. Then they'd kill them. USS Bogue deployed in March 1943. Within 3 months, her aircraft and escorts sank 6 U-boats. The first kill came on June 5, 1943. An Avenger from Bogue located U-217 on the surface. Dropped depth charges, the destroyer escorts finished the job. The second kill, U-468, June 11th, 3rd, U-118, June 12th. It kept happening. The Germans noticed. Of course they noticed. U-boats were disappearing. Commanders reported strange aircraft contacts at night, attacks coming from nowhere. But German intelligence couldn't figure out what was happening. Where were these aircraft coming from? There were no land bases in range, no fleet carriers in the area. The escort carriers were small, easy to overlook, and they operated far from convoy routes, hunting independently. By the time Dönitz realized what he was facing, it was too late. The key to the whole system was radar. The British had developed centimetric radar, 10-centimeter wavelength, in 1940. The cavity magnetron, one of the most important inventions of the war. The Americans took the technology and ran with it. ASV radar sets light enough to mount an aircraft. Reliable enough for naval operations. Effective enough to detect a submarine at useful ranges. The Germans never caught up. They knew the Allies had radar. They could detect the old 1.5-meter sets with their METOX receivers. But centimetric radar, invisible to their detectors. German scientists tried to develop their own centimetric radar, failed. Tried to develop detectors for Allied centimetric radar, failed. By late 1943, German submariners operated in a world where the enemy could see them and they couldn't see the enemy. It was like being blind. Or worse, like believing you could see, then discovering you'd been blind all along. The Avenger was the perfect platform. Grumman TBF Avenger, 3-man crew, pilot, turret gunner, radio man, bombardier. Range, 1,000 miles. Endurance, over 5 hours. Armed with depth charges, acoustic homing torpedoes or bombs. Equipped with radar, could operate day or night, slow compared to fighters. But speed didn't matter for anti-submarine work. What mattered was endurance, range, and sensor capability. An escort carrier could maintain 2 Avengers in the air continuously. One on patrol, one ready to launch. Rotate crews every 4 hours. Keep coverage going around the clock. The Wildcats provided fighter cover and could strafe surfaced U-boats, forcing them to dive. Together, the CVE air groups made surface operations suicidal for U-boats within 300 miles of the carrier. And the Americans were building escort carriers as fast as Kaiser's shipyards could weld them together. By the end of 1943, the U.S. Navy operated over 30 escort carriers. Not all in the Atlantic, many went to the Pacific, but enough to cover the critical areas. The British operated escort carriers too. HMS Biter, HMS Archer, HMS Dasher. Many built in American yards under Lend-Lease. Between them, the Allies deployed enough CVEs to maintain near-continuous air coverage across the entire North Atlantic convoy routes. The Black Gap ceased to exist. German U-boat commanders filed report after report. Attacked by aircraft at night, unknown origin. Strong radar contact, no visual warning, attacked in darkness. Aircraft appeared without warning. Type unknown. Carrier-based. The German Naval War Staff analyzed the reports, couldn't make sense of them. Carrier-based aircraft in mid-Atlantic? Impossible. The American fleet carriers were in the Pacific. The British fleet carriers were elsewhere. Some analysts suggested escort carriers. The concept wasn't new. Germany had considered building them. But surely escort carriers were too small, too limited for open ocean operations. They weren't. By the time German intelligence confirmed the presence of American hunter-killer groups in the Atlantic, dozens of U-boats had already died. The commanders who survived brought back stories. Aircraft that appeared from nowhere. Attacks at night when lookouts couldn't see anything. The sudden glare of a searchlight, then depth charges falling. Morale collapsed. U-boat crews were already facing terrible odds. The casualty rate was climbing toward 75%, the highest of any branch of service on either side. Now they faced an enemy they couldn't fight, couldn't see, couldn't evade. They stopped surfacing to charge batteries, tried to operate submerged as much as possible. But submarines need to surface. The batteries run down. The air goes bad. Eventually you have to come up. And when you did, the aircraft might be waiting. Or they might appear 10 seconds after you surfaced. Radar contact at 12 miles, closing fast, no warning, no escape. Let's watch it happen. November 1943. USS Card, CVE-11, operating southwest of the Azores. Card is a Bogue-class escort carrier, commissioned in October 1942. 11 months in service and already a veteran. Her air group has sunk 3 U-boats. Tonight they're hunting number 4. Earlier today, a destroyer escort in Card's task group picked up a HF-DF contact, high-frequency radio transmission, a U-boat reporting to headquarters. The bearing put the submarine about 60 miles northeast of the task group, too far for immediate attack, but close enough to investigate. Card turned northeast, increased speed to 16 knots, maximum for these small carriers. Sunset at 1847, full dark by 1930. At 21 MAR, Card launches an Avenger. Pilot, Lieutenant, Junior Grade, Robert Williams, Radioman, Aviation Radioman. Second Class, John Martinez. Turret Gunner, Aviation Machinist's Mate. Third Class, James O'Brien. Williams climbs to 1,500 feet. Throttles back to cruising speed. Flips on the radar. The scope shows returns from the ocean surface. Waves. A few schools of fish, maybe. The carrier behind him clear as day. Nothing else. He flies a search pattern, expanding square. Each leg takes him further from Card. After 30 minutes, he's 70 miles from the carrier. Still nothing. He's about to turn back when Martinez calls over the intercom. Contact. 12 o'clock, range 11 miles. Williams leans over the radar scope. There, a small pip, stationary or nearly so, could be anything. Debris, whale, false return, or a U-boat. I've got it, I'm going in. He turns toward the contact, descends to 1,000 feet, throttles forward slightly. The pip grows stronger as range decreases. 8 miles, 6 miles, 4 miles. Williams switches off the radar, no point advertising his presence with electromagnetic emissions. He's committed now. Either there's a target down there or there isn't. 2 miles, he can't see anything yet. The ocean is black. Visibility may be a quarter mile. 1 mile, still nothing visible. He arms the depth charges, 4 Mk-47 charges, each packed with 200 pounds of Torpex, half a mile. There, a shadow on the water, darker than the surrounding ocean, low profile, elongated U-boat. On the surface. The lookouts haven't spotted him, they won't until it's too late. 300 yards. Williams centers the shadow in his bomb sight. Martinez flips the switch on the lee light. A brilliant white beam stabs down from the Avenger's wing, illuminating a Type 7C U-boat in perfect detail. Conning tower, deck gun, 4 men on the bridge, their faces turning upward in shock. Williams sees it all for maybe 2 seconds. The U-boat's alarm klaxon sounds. Tiny from this altitude, the lookouts are already scrambling down the hatch. The bridge watch throws itself at the tower opening, too slow. Williams pickles the depth charges, 4 canisters tumble away. Williams pulls up hard, applying full throttle, climbing and turning to observe the results. The depth charges hit the water in a tight pattern. 1 just forward of the conning tower, 2 amidships, 1 aft. They're set for 25 feet depth, shallow. Against a surface target, you want them to detonate just below the keel where the pressure wave does maximum damage to the hull. The charges sink for 2 seconds. Then they detonate, 4 massive explosions almost simultaneous. Water erupts in white columns. The shock wave spreads out in a perfect circle. Williams circles at 500 feet watching. The U-boat is still visible in the lee light's beam. But something's wrong with her. The bow is tilting down, water pouring over the forward deck. She's bow down, stern up at maybe 45 degrees. The stern rises higher, the propellers break surface, still turning. Then they stop. The U-boat slides under, nose first. A trail of bubbles and oil marks her grave, 38 seconds from illumination to sinking. Williams circles for another 5 minutes, watching for survivors. He sees none. The oil slick spreads. A few pieces of debris float to the surface. He radios Card. Splash 1 submarine. Confirm sinking. No survivors visible. He returns to base. Lands on Card's deck at 22:47. Total mission time, 1 hour 47 minutes. 1 U-boat destroyed. 49 German submariners dead. This happens again and again. USS Bogue, USS Card, USS Core, USS Santee, USS Block Island. American escort carriers hunting U-boats through 1943 and into 1944. The statistics tell the story. June through December 1943, CVE-led hunter-killer groups sink 16 U-boats. The same period, merchant ship losses dropped precipitously, from 95 ships in March 1943 to 23 in July to 19 in September. By December 1943, the Allies are sinking U-boats faster than Germany can replace them. The production numbers can't keep up with the losses. More critically, the training pipeline can't keep up. In 1939, a U-boat commander trained for 2 years before taking his first boat to sea. By 1943, training time is cut to 6 months. By 1944, some commanders go to sea with 4 months of training. Inexperienced commanders make mistakes. Get caught on the surface. Can't evade escorts effectively. Attack from poor positions. The escort carriers feast on them. May 1944, USS Block Island's air group sinks 4 U-boats in 13 days. June 1944, Allied forces sink 55 U-boats. The mathematics are brutal. Germany starts the war with 57 operational U-boats. At peak, they have over 400 in service. But the loss rate is unsustainable. 75% of U-boat crew members die. 30,000 men. The highest casualty rate of any service branch, any nation in the entire war. And a significant portion of those losses are from aircraft operating off escort carriers. Aircraft that found them with radar killed them at night when they thought they were safe. The Germans try to adapt. They increase AIA armament on U-boats. Twin 20mm guns become quad mounts. Some boats carry 6 or 8 AIA guns. Doesn't help. The aircraft attack at night when the gunners can't see them until the lee light comes on. By then it's too late. They develop the schnorkel, a breathing tube that allows diesel operation while submerged. Brilliant concept. But it's not ready for deployment until 1944, and even then it has problems. Slow. Creates a visible wake, still detectable by radar. They design new submarines. The type Dunayuan. Revolutionary design, high submerged speed, quiet running. Too late. Too complicated, too unreliable. Only one type, Dunayuan, completes an operational patrol before the war ends. The fundamental problem is unsolvable. The Allies can see in the dark. The Germans can't. Technology gap. And it's getting wider, not narrower. Understand the human dimension. You're 23 years old. German submariner. You've trained for 6 months. Heard stories about the early days when U-boats hunted Allied convoys with impunity. Those days are gone. Now you're on your first patrol, sailing from France to the mid-Atlantic. Your commander has 2 patrols under his belt. He's 25. Considered experienced because he's survived 2 patrols. You spend most of your time submerged. The batteries drain. The air goes foul. Carbon dioxide buildup gives everyone headaches. After 3 days submerged, men can barely function. You have to surface. It's night. The commander checks everything. METOX detector. Nothing. Hydrophones, no propeller sounds. Lookouts report all clear. You blow tanks. Surface. Diesels start. Sweet fresh air floods down the hatches. Everyone breathes deep. 30 seconds later, the alarm sounds. Aircraft. No warning. No radar contact on the METOX. No sound. Just suddenly it's there, spotlight blazing, and depth charges are falling. You dive. Maybe you make it. Maybe the depth charges miss or detonate too far away. Maybe the hull holds. Maybe. Or maybe the pressure hull cracks. Water floods in. The boat's going down and there's no way to stop it. You've got maybe 60 seconds before the pressure crushes the hull completely. Some men pray. Some scream. Some just sit quietly waiting for the end. The ocean at that depth is utterly dark. Utterly silent except for the groan of buckling metal. This is how most of them die. Trapped in a steel tube at the bottom of the Atlantic. No way out. No hope. Just waiting for the water pressure to finish the job. The American and British air crews pay a price too. Night carrier operations are dangerous. Always have been. Landing on a pitching carrier deck in the dark is difficult even in peacetime. In wartime, with radio silence, minimal lights, bad weather, it's lethal. Aircraft crash. Pilots miss the deck. Planes go into the water, crews drown. Weather kills more aviators than enemy action. Storms in the North Atlantic are brutal, waves 40 feet high. Winds strong enough to flip an aircraft on the carrier deck. Some pilots take off and never return, lost in clouds. Ran out of fuel searching for the carrier, flew into the ocean in the darkness. A TBF Avenger costs about $50,000. The Navy builds thousands. The 3-man crew is irreplaceable. But the mission continues. The hunter-killer groups stay at sea. The aircraft keep flying, the U-boats keep dying. By mid-1944, the Battle of the Atlantic is effectively won. U-boats still operate, they still sink ships. But they're no longer a strategic threat. The invasion of Normandy, D-Day, June 6, 1944, proves it. Thousands of ships cross the channel. Millions of tons of supplies. The U-boats are supposed to disrupt this. They can't. The escort carriers helped make that possible. Why did it work? Technology. Centimetric radar that German detectors couldn't pick up. Tactics. Proactive hunting instead of defensive convoy escort. Numbers. America's industrial capacity could build CVEs faster than Germany could train U-boat crews. Coordination. CVE aircraft worked with destroyer escorts using HFDF to locate targets and radar to prosecute attacks. Persistence. 24-hour air coverage. Impossible for land-based aircraft. Intelligence. Ultra-intercepts gave hunter-killer groups target areas. Training. American crews specifically trained for night anti-submarine work. All of it together created a system the Germans couldn't counter. The reckoning is brutal. 785 U-boats lost during the war. 40,000 German submariners serve. 30,000 die. Aircraft sink 175 U-boats. Many of those aircraft operate from escort carriers. The CVEs proved themselves so effective that the U.S. Navy continues building them through 1945. 78 commissioned for the U.S. Navy alone. The British operate dozens more under Lend-Lease. After the Atlantic is secure, many CVEs transfer to the Pacific. There they provide air cover for amphibious landings, operate anti-submarine patrols, ferry aircraft. The concept validates itself completely. Cheap, mass-produced carriers doing work that fleet carriers are too valuable to risk. Post-war analysis confirms what the participants knew. The radar technology gap was decisive. The Germans never solved the 10-centimeter detection problem. Never developed effective centimetric radar of their own. Never caught up. British scientists invented the cavity magnetron. American industry mass-produced radar sets. Allied naval forces deployed them effectively. The Germans played catch-up and lost. Admiral Karl Dönitz surrendered on May 8, 1945. Commander of the German Navy after Hitler's suicide, the last head of the German state. After the war, during interrogation, Allied officers asked him about the U-boat campaign. What went wrong? When did he know it was lost? Dönitz said many things. Blamed Hitler for not building enough submarines. Blamed the Luftwaffe for not providing air cover. Blamed German industry for production failures. But when asked about radar, he was honest. The Allies' radar superiority made U-boat operations impossible. The submarines couldn't surface safely, couldn't coordinate wolfpack attacks, couldn't operate effectively. And the escort carriers brought that radar capability anywhere in the Atlantic. He'd never expected that. None of them had. Fleet carriers, yes. Everyone understood their power, but small escort carriers operating independently, hunting submarines with radar-equipped aircraft? Revolutionary. By the time he understood what he was facing, it was too late. Go back to March 16, 1944. To Captain Lieutenant Werner Hartmann and his U-boat. The boat didn't make it. The first depth charge cracked the pressure hull. The second opened her like a can. The third was redundant. She sank in 400 meters of water. 43 men aboard, 3 survivors picked up by the destroyer Escort that finished the job. Hartmann wasn't one of them. His last thought, according to one survivor, was confusion. How did they find us? He'd followed every procedure, surfaced in darkness, posted lookouts, monitored the METOX detector, done everything right. And still the aircraft appeared from nowhere. He never learned about the escort carriers, never understood the radar that could see his boat from miles away. Never knew that the rules he'd learned no longer applied. None of them expected it. The night sky was supposed to protect them. The darkness was their shield. Instead, it became their graveyard. Technology changes war. Not gradually, not predictably. Sometimes it changes everything overnight. Centimetric radar was one of those technologies. The cavity magnetron, a device small enough to fit in an aircraft, powerful enough to detect a submarine at useful ranges. Combined with the Escort carrier, a cheap, mass-produced platform, it transformed naval warfare. The Germans built better submarines at the end of the war. The Type 29 was genuinely revolutionary, decades ahead of anything else. Too late. The Allies had already won. They won with escort carriers and radar and depth charges and persistence. They won by putting aircraft over every square mile of the Atlantic. They won by making the night as dangerous for submarines as the day. The U-boat crews expected many things, expected danger, expected hardship, expected the possibility of death. They didn't expect small American carriers, barely worthy of the name, hunting them with radar at night. By the time they understood, thousands were already dead. The Atlantic became an Allied lake. The convoys got through. The supplies reached Britain. The invasion of Europe proceeded on schedule. And in the darkness of the mid-Atlantic, U-boats still surface sometimes. Not to charge batteries or coordinate attacks. Just to rest, eternally. On the ocean floor, 300 meters down, where the sunlight never reaches, where the pressure would crush a man instantly. The hunters became the hunted. The darkness they trusted betrayed them, and the war at sea was won by an unexpected weapon. A converted cargo ship with a flight deck, carrying 20 aircraft equipped with radar hunting through the night. The Germans never saw it coming.